So we got a super from Semphis Rythorn, who said, what advice would you give to any new person wanting to try out Final Fantasy XIV and is held back because of the whole, quotes, weeb or art style now that you have a crack at it? So I think this is definitely one that's meant for, I guess, me as somebody who doesn't really play a lot of Japanese games.
Go for it.
Right, the weeb thing. What is in your head when you think weeb? I mean, that's a big question. I think it's the sort of thing where words lose their meaning over time. Weeb certainly is one of those words where, you know, it's at that stage, people will be like, sushi, that's a weeb food. You know? It's almost at the stage where, you know, I don't know, will it be in 5 years, Ghost of Tsushima will be a weeb game as well, just because it's Japanese? I guess it's that thing where really people think of weeb stuff and they think of, you know, the sort of aspects of anime, where anime delves into anime and into anime and into anime. So it's like, give me a weeb anime.
A weeb anime? Oh my goodness.
Just anyone off the top of your head.
The majority of them. For some reason, the only one I'm thinking of is like, really, this is really going to sound weird. The only one in my head is My Hero Academia, and that's actually very weeb, but it's very Western inspired in loads of ways, but it's also all of the weeb tropes that you expect from a shonen show. But it's like weeb stuff like, oh, actually, I've got another one. It's called, was it? Oh, what's the name of it? Armed Girls Machiavelli?
Oh, yeah.
Armed Girls Machiavelli, yeah.
That's what we can call weeb stuff.
Yeah, where it's complete nightmare.
A Studio Ghibli movie. That's not weeb stuff.
No, not at all.
And basically, right, if somebody tells you that like a Studio Ghibli movie is weeb stuff, they're actually just fucking stupid and don't listen to what they're saying about this particular subject matter. I say Paprika.
Yeah, that's
Paprika is not weeb shit.
If you call that weeb, you actually need your brain checked, like.
Yeah. And when we apply that to video games, FF14. Now, if I'm going to say weeb elements, what are the weeb elements? Well, in that sort of usage, those things really, what does that mean? That basically just means something that a Western player is going to find fictitious in a way that is specific to maybe norms and things in Japanese culture that are bizarre or confusing to a Westerner who's got really no idea, but the Westerners who have really embraced that and went super, super deep into Japanese culture, who perhaps are referred to as weeaboos by some people, that they're okay with. If it's that, I mean, it's what? The floaty dudes are in every FF game. The
Muggles?
Muggles, yes.
Muggles.
Like the Muggles. Maybe the Muggles are a little bit weeby or something, but they're not that. The Lalafell, you could sort of say that, but they're not written in a weeby way.
No, and they're not really, because they're just different looking gnomes.
Yeah, so the whole weeb thing, it's like when you see the elves or the Ellen or whatever, the Elven, what are they called, the elves? Elezen, yeah. Like the Elezen do not come off like anything that you could really ever call as weeby. They're just totally up their own whole sort of high society sort of people.
Yeah.
There's really, in terms of how that story's written and how loads of the characters feel, it's not weeby. It's
just not.
Now, some of it will just feel a bit Japanese, but that doesn't mean it feels weeby in the way that, so, you know, those people who just sort of use weeb as that like random pejorative that it doesn't really mean anything. I can understand why all that stuff is going to be like floating around in your head if that's like so much of what you've heard generally. But hopping into FF, it's not a weeb game, I would say, at all. And the people who call it a weeb game do not understand what the term weeaboo really means. Either that or they're applying it so broadly that it basically just means video game made in Japan. And that really doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. If
sometimes it does honestly get to borderline a little bit of a certain ism. For some of them,
I would say xenophobia.
Xenophobia that's the more correct term. Yeah. Now the art style thing, it's not like it. I don't know. Maybe you could say it maybe as a Final Fantasy-ish art style, whatever. For me, it just has graphical issues. It's that thing where I think actually loads of their designs and stuff are really cool, and their characters look generally quite great, but like the aliasing and things like that are definitely issues. But that's just visuals. You can get over that. You know, yeah, WoW does look extremely clean and crisp, and it's very readable, and you do lose some of that, but I mean, just play it and get over that. You know, don't let that be a massive roadblock.
Yeah, if
Or, you know,
like
build it up as a massive roadblock for yourself is sort of what I would say.
compared to everything else, it comes across as like it. Okay, 'cause it sounds like I would attack someone for nitpicking, for looking at and saying, "Well, I don't like that part." It's completely valid to not like that part, but the point that I'd like to get across more than anything else is, if you want to engage with something, if you want to see what people like about it, give it a try despite issues you initially have, especially surface level ones, because you'll soon find that everything outweighs that significantly.
Yeah, like Unknown Character 14 says, maybe Google what weeb means. I think generally the accepted like definition of weeb is like whenever you get like a sort of, I think generally people, well, basically you get like a not somebody who's not from Japan who basically tries to live their life and pretend they're from Japan. It's like, you know, they basically want to become Japanese, sort of.
Yeah, that's
Sort of
that's what a
fully
weeb
deep into
is.
that culture, yeah.
That's what a weeb is.
So that's not exactly. I mean, the actual definition, I don't know if that's like super.
Yeah, language is fluid enough. It's
Yeah.
when people talk about weeb things, like people talk about a weeb game, they talk about Hyperdimension Neptunia. They sometimes talk about some of the tail stuff.
Yeah.
They'll be talking about some of the more Westerner unfriendly aspects of Persona, because people call like, it's weird because the better something is, the less weeb people call it, even if it does adhere to a load of tropes. Whereas an example where I would call Hyperdimension Neptunia weeb garbage.
Gotcha.
And even though I actually sort of like it a little bit, but it's then Persona's like, well, it is a weeb as hell game, because it's got that kind of like hyper Japanese aesthetic, it befits a load of anime tropes in so many ways. In fact, like the Persona series is kind of half. Like P4 ended up defining a lot of them, P3 as well ended up defining a lot of those tropes for people.
Yeah.
So it's like that's what weeb is, because that's the definition of something like that.
Whenever you said that, I was just thought of Chris Madsen's geek is, but it's just, you know, swap it instead of Chris, it's you. It's just you like weeb is.
Yeah.
Imagine, remember geek is? Oh man, what a thing that was.
So,
like Black Cat had a super saying the weebiest thing in FF is the players.
For 100%.
Cat girl emotes are a little weeby, but that's my own damn fault. I'm seeing it because I choose to play one. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much bang on. Yeah, I think the actual game as presented is not super weeby at all.
Yeah.
Luxan just supered saying Illidan is just the Blizzard version of edgy Satsuke from Naruto.
It's Illidan.
I don't know what that means because I've never watched Naruto, but I know that there's like a meme of this Satsuke character.
Oh,
Some
Illidan.
sort of betrayal thing. I don't understand.
Illidan is very much a weeb character, in the sense that it follows the same edginess that like the Sasuke character, the cold, emotionless rival, the anti-hero kind of character, but like that became associated with weeb stuff.
Yeah.
Because it was an aesthetic for so long in like shonen anime.
So I think that's just all to say. So thanks for all the supporting supers for that one as well. So Semphis, I think that's just to say that, you know, I think that weeb thing is maybe it can exist in some of the player-based stuff, and I think it can loom larger in our heads because of a whole bunch of expectations. But I think if you just approach that game for what it is, I think you just do find that thing where Final Fantasy generally as a series is not super weebish.
It's not like,
and that's that. Now it could just be that, you know, it's an art style and stuff like that you don't like that much, and if you don't like it, then, you know, fair enough actually. Certainly I'd say that my main advice to a new player in that game is just, you know, beware that A Realm Reborn is more slow. It is a little bit more of a slog. Really the good shit starts to happen in Heavensward, but A Realm Reborn does have like loads of cool moments. You know, cool ending. I've appreciated my game time in it a fair bit, but I certainly, you know, I did go into it, I think, with the appropriate mindset based on everything that people had told me. Yeah. So that's what I'd say to that one. There's one from Rico Mortis who said, can my super chat go towards Bellular hair estate? Hair real estate? Maybe name a strand after me. You know, I could name a strand after you. It would be quite hard to work out which strand it is next time, though. Man, but thank you.
Dye one strand of hair, different color.
That's it.
Hope nobody sees it.
Yeah, that would certainly be a look.
Yeah.
Oh man.